name is Rochelle Reinertson. Today I would like to make you aware of a man that is influential to many people. To start out this speech, we posted on Blackboard what we were going to do our speech about, why we're going to do our speech. It was really surprising to me the amount of people that did not know who the gentleman was that I was going to be talking about. Not only did they not know the gentleman, they didn't know that he fought in the Civil War. I think this was really surprising to me because in middle school and in high school, I took a very large interest in the Civil War. But I guess since nobody knew about it, it was a good subject to talk about. I do not wish to persuade you to take one side or the other about whether this guy was a good guy or a bad guy. I just want to influence you. I just want to inform you of his existence. Born in the year 1824, a boy named Thomas Jonathan Jackson. At 2 years of age, Thomas lost his father to the typhoid fever. 4 years later, Thomas's mother, remarried, but this guy did not want the children to be around, so they were sent off to her family. Thomas was sent off to his uncle. His uncle owned a grist mill and a sawmill. Thomas worked at the sawmill until he was 18 years old. While Thomas learned to have a really great work ethic, he did not get love and tenderness that he should have from a family. Perhaps this is why he was the man that he's become so famous for. At the age of 18, Thomas attempted to test for an appointment at West Point, along with 5 other people from the town that he lived in. Everything kind of went downhill from here for him. The gentleman that he was getting the appointment through at West Point ended up resigning from West Point, and Thomas was kind of stuck in a hole. So he really wanted to get into West Point and decided to go talk to a governor, and this governor helped him get into West Point. Thomas finished his education at West Point and became a military leader in the Army. After West Point, Thomas had his first experience in war in the Mexican War. Not much happened for him here, except for the fact that he continued to get into a disagreement with another gentleman, another commander. Thomas decided to not even deal with these people and to go back to the States, and he decided to take a teaching position at a military school in Lexington. One thing that I thought was really interesting about this other gentleman that Thomas fought with was the fact that he was sent elsewhere and he began fighting with another commander, and the Army decided to not question Jackson any further and to kind of just let Jackson be because obviously he was right in the first place. One thing that was interesting was that Thomas was not a really good teacher whatsoever. You know how you have those classes that you can't help but fall asleep in? You have those teachers that make it so hard to pay attention to. They just ramble on and on and on and on, and you just really want to fall asleep. Well, Thomas was this way. He was such this way that he would memorize his speeches, and if he didn't memorize them, if he started doing his speech and somebody interrupted him, a student interrupted him with a question, he would have to start his speech completely over again. And this wasn't the last of it. Thomas also had a really high-pitched voice. He was not a teacher that I could have listened to. Perhaps Thomas needed a Communication 101 class. Thomas did not excel at being a teacher, but he did excel at being a soldier. Where Thomas shone and where he received his nickname was in the Civil War. During the Civil War is where Thomas got his age-long nickname, Stonewall Jackson. Jackson, like a lot of Southerners, was stuck between a rock and a hard spot when it came to knowing whether or not they wanted slavery. Most people from the South said that they believed that it was God's will for there to be slavery. This is what Thomas believed. Being from the South, Virginia to be exact, influenced why Jackson fought for the South. When writing this speech, I had a really difficult time, obviously you could tell, remembering that this gentleman's name was Thomas, not Stonewall Jackson, because I grew up knowing him as Stonewall. Where he got this nickname took place in the Battle of Manassas. There was a group that had been fighting for quite a while down in the valley, and Jackson was actually in charge of a reserve group that was behind them, obviously. One of the gentlemen that was fighting turned around and saw Jackson standing there and said, "There stands Jackson like a stone wall." No one really knows if this was meant as good or bad, and nobody will ever know or did ever know because the gentleman that called him Stonewall ended up dying later in battle. Sadly to say, Jackson also ended up dying in the Civil War. In closing, I would like to share with you one thing that amazes me about Stonewall. From the mouth of Lieutenant General Thomas Jackson to the ears of Captain John D. Imboden. Captain, my religious belief teaches me to feel safe as in battle as in bed. God has fixed the time for my death. I do not concern myself about that, but to be always ready, no matter when it may overtake me. He added after a pause, looking me full in the face, this is the way all men should live, and then all would be equally brave. Perhaps it wasn't that upsetting for Stonewall to die, as he was prepared to die. On his deathbed, Stonewall said, I see the number of physicians that you think my condition dangerous, but I thank God, if it is His will, that I am ready to go. I look up to General Jackson. What do you think? Thank you.